How's it going, everyone? Data here, and with the 2022 NHL playoffs coming down to the wire, it is time to start looking at the conference final matchup, starting with the Western Conference between the Avalanche and the Oilers, previewing what kind of series that we are in for, who has the edge in what regards, and what are my predictions and analysis for the series. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts down in the comments below as well. In the past, I've been doing videos where I recap the entire round and then give my analysis of the upcoming round, but I think what I'll do moving forward is a preview video for each individual series, as well as one recap video of the previous round. So look out for the Eastern Conference final matchup, which will be against the Lightning against the Hurricanes or the Rangers. That game hasn't finished yet at the time of the recording. And then after that, a third video, which will recap the entire second round. So as you can see in my bracket, I thought that would be the Avalanche and the Flames going into the Western Conference Finals. I originally, back before the playoffs began, had the Flames beating the Oilers in 7. Upon seeing the result of the first round, if you watched my round number 2 prediction video, I predicted that the Oilers, I changed it, not on paper obviously, since you can't change your bracket after it's locked, but I changed my prediction to the Oilers in 7. It didn't go in 7, but the Oilers did take it as I thought they would once I had, a bit more information, granted. And the Avalanche, as originally predicted, did beat the St. Louis Blues, not the Minnesota Wild. And I thought that was going to be a tight series as well. A lot of people said the Avalanche would steamroll it, and I thought it would be closer to 6, and it was exactly that. But now we have the Avalanche and the Oilers into the Western Conference Finals, and ladies and gentlemen, this will be a doozy. Honestly, I think I'm looking forward to this being the best series of the entire postseason so far, barring perhaps the future Stanley Cup final. But I'm not going to get too much into what happened between the Avalanche and the Blues, or the Oilers and the Flames. I'm going to look forward to this particular matchup. So all these numbers that I'm looking at here, thanks to Top Down Hockey and JFresh Hockey, those will be numbers for next episode, the round 2 breakdown. What I want to look at right now is just the Avalanche and the Oilers. So when looking first and foremost at the players who will be in the series, it is obvious that it is going to be Nathan MacKinnon versus Connor McDavid. Now, many people have been saying that MacKinnon has the edge. He's a better two-way player, and couple that with the offensive abilities, MacKinnon will outduel Connor McDavid, and the team as a whole will move forward. Now, I do think I lean Avalanche, but not for those reasons. Let's go back to this graphic I just passed by here. Connor McDavid, this is as of May 27th, I think, so I'm not sure if he got surpassed for any of these rankings. It's now May 30th at the time of recording, and we're looking at all forwards, minimum 4 games played. He is number 1. Look at all these categories. We're not just saying points and plus minus and stuff. We're going under the surface. We're going deep to Mariana's Trench. Points, primary assists, passes, just the number of passes, shots off the rush, high danger passes, one-timer shot assists, just all these very interesting stats we don't hear a lot about. Number one. Now, primary chance contributions, 2nd, shots on goal, 3rd, scoring chances, 3rd, possession exits, 5th. Okay, it can't be number 1 in everything, but just to say, this is a new level, and perhaps, I don't know about some of you, I'm not super old, but in my youngish life, I gotta say this is probably the best performance I've seen from a player in a postseason ever. This is wild stuff. Now, of course, if you saw Lemieux and Gretzky and stuff like that, then you could have some other opinions, but personally, myself, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. McDavid has been amazing to watch. I've never watched more West Coast hockey. I'm falling asleep, but I'm still keeping my eyes open. And now you say, okay, well, Connor McDavid, yes, but it's the team, right? Does the team go deeper than McDavid and Draisaitl? Oh, it's just a 2-player team. Well, I don't think I can agree on that. Because yes, we have McDavid at the top. Yes, we have Draisaitl at the top. Evander Kane, as much as I don't like the guy, he's been a scoring animal. Zach Hyman's been very solid as well. Nugent Hopkins been solid when it comes to contributions. His offense might only be at 2.7 here when it comes to the micro stat game score from all 3 zones. Thanks to them for this data. Haha, data. At a 4.4 total score as opposed to McDavid at 10.5. Yeah. But look at keep these in mind, and then go to these scores, from the Avalanche. A 4.4 from Nugent Hopkins would still be below a lot of these players here from the Avalanche. So I think that's Probably my main reason why I lean Avalanche is because I think they have more players playing above what they are expected. MacKinnon, Nichushkin, all at 5, 6 on this microstat game score, going off of offense, zone entries, forecheck, exits, and special teams. All that comes together into a microstat. And I think, yes, you have your big guys here, but to say after McDavid and Draisaitl, you still have very, very, very good players in Kane, Hyman, Nugent-Hopkins, but your secondary is in the 5s and the 4s. Meanwhile, the Avalanche secondary is in the 6 and in the high 5s, things like that. Now, the lower end, I give it to the Oilers. The lower end of the Avalanche are at the 1s and the 2s here. Burakovsky has not been good at all either, really. Cogliano, I love Cogliano, but he hasn't been contributing too much. Go over to the Oilers, and you have their bottom. Okay, you have Cassian Archibald. But then you have guys like, I don't know, Puljujärvi, even Ryan McLeod, a name that you wouldn't think at all. He's at a 3.2 on the microstat game score when you group all these things together. So, okay, that's just looking at very isolated players, right? It's hard to compare between series and all that. I'll get to that graphic in a moment. That's what I really want to focus on. But now let's think about the defense. A lot of people are saying Tyson Barrie hasn't been good, and there's no one really after Darnell Nurse. Well, Evan Bouchard and Cody Ceci have probably been the biggest surprise of the entire postseason when it comes to defensive surprises. Yes, Fox and Makar are the best performers, but Bouchard and Ceci are the biggest surprises, I think, in my opinion. I'm a big fan of Brett Kulak as well. Were it not for Bouchard and Ceci, of course, with great goaltending, I don't think the Oilers would be where they are. Not just saying in this series, but think about the series against the Kings as well. Bouchard and Ceci have been very, very good. But then you go over to the Avalanche defense. Their top 4D were the best 4D of the entire series against the Blues. You have Makar, who wasn't as offensive. That's the very interesting thing and even scary thing. Makar, I believe he only had 3 assists in the entire series, yet he was still dominating zone entries, zone exits, entry defense, microstat game score 10.5, almost twice as much as the next closest player, Bowen Byram at 5.7. You look at someone who has similar ice time, Devon Toews, who is one of the best defensemen in the Central Division, in my opinion. 5.6, great score, but Makar is still close to doubling that. Eric Johnson, of all people, he's good. He's been great as well. Someone that, not a name that you usually think of. So the defense on St. Louis wasn't great. I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on the defense on Colorado. 10.5 to 4.3 is the range. Meanwhile, on Edmonton, I love Bouchard and Ceci. They've been so good, but their range is 3.1 to 1.5. So again, I give the edge to Colorado in the forwards and in the defense. I'm trying to go as analytical as possible here because I don't want to discredit the Oilers at all. What they're doing is fantastic hockey, but I do think the Avalanche take this series, and I'm trying to show that through the numbers. So now let's go. This was the Avalanche versus the Flames. I replaced, the Avalanche versus the Blues and the Oilers versus the Flames. I did a little copy-paste to merge these two images together. That's why this is cut off here at the bottom. But when you look at goals for, the Oilers are definitely dominating in that regard. At the end of the day, you can have all the zone entries and shots and whatever else you want. If you don't score, you don't win, and you play to win the game. We all know that. So the Oilers are scoring more, at least in that last series. Part of that is Jacob Markstrom struggling, whatever. Now, the expected goals for, this is what's interesting, the expected goals for 2.5 to 3.2, the Avalanche are 0.7 above that. But the Oilers, 2.7 to 4.9, that's where Markstrom's his struggles came into play. The actual expected goals for are very close, 2.7 to 2.5. So don't think of it as a 1.7 difference. Think of it as more of a 0.2 difference. I see the Oilers slightly taking this, but not as much as the goals for might tell you. Now, shots on goal for, Avalanche leading that by about 6 shots or so. Goals above expected, like I said, think about the goals above expected. Are the Oilers' numbers inflated a little bit? Perhaps. Now down to these stats here. Chances go to the Avalanche. Shot attempts off of a pass, 15 more, plus more to the Avalanche. Shots off high danger passes goes to the Oilers. Rust shots, more to the Avalanche. In-zone shots, many more to the Avalanche. Entries with a chance, pretty even, but more to the Avalanche. Rebounds and deflections, pretty even, slight edge to the Avalanche. Controlled entry percentage goes to the Oilers, likely in the Connor McDavid effect. and controlled exit percentage pretty much even, very slight edge by a percent to the Oilers. So all these numbers tell me, yes, it's a pretty tight series in most regards, but I think that the numbers may actually level off when we're playing two solid goaltenders. Now, Darcy Kuemper, I don't buy into Darcy Kuemper, honestly. I don't mean to speak ill of him. I've never been a huge believer in him. He could turn it on, but I've never been a huge believer in Darcy Kuemper. Meanwhile, Mike Smith, who has shown the ability, unfortunately, to kind of fall apart, he has not really been doing that at all. He has been solid through and through. So I'm all this to say, if the Oilers win this series, they need to have continued support and performances from McDavid and, of course, Draisaitl. But I think it comes down to the goaltending. Now, going over to the stats here, looking at these two teams, two very good teams, both have high power play percentages, both have, actually the Oilers are very much better on the penalty kill. That might be part of their success if they win as well. But if we're looking at just goals, I want to see these numbers. Mike Smith, currently a .927 save percentage, but 2.7 goals against average. So that means he's getting peppered with shots. He's letting in 2 or 3 a night, but he's still saving a lot. Meanwhile, Darcy Kuemper is letting in less at 2.44, but he's also saving less at just a .904 save percentage. I'm not super impressed by Darcy Kuemper. So if Mike Smith can keep it up and not kind of fall apart as he did with Calgary against Colorado, was it in the 2019 postseason? That will be the difference maker. So those are all these numbers here. Like going back to the goaltending, if we're looking at Calgary and Edmonton saves cumulative goals saved above expected. Mike Smith ended up allowing 2 more goals than expected, but with his performance in Game 3, where he saved 2.8 goals above expected, getting his numbers back to 0.5, that's the difference right there. If he can have a big game like that where he's saving 2 or 3 above expected, that is the game changer. Now, over in Colorado, Darcy Kuemper was negative all the way through. Never crazy until Game 4-ish. Then Game 5, he allowed like over a goal and a half more than expected. So that would be really all I'm trying to hammer home here, is that I think that's the difference. When it comes down to these two teams, it's going to be a fantastic matchup. I can't wait to see this, but I don't want to hear people saying it's McDavid and Draisaitl and that's it on the Oilers, or MacKinnon's better at two-way, so he's going to shut down McDavid. No, I don't think so. McDavid has been very good defensively. He's not often thought of as a defensive guy, but he's shown that ability in this postseason, and I'm sure he will in moving into the rest of his career now. It's when it comes to the forward depth, Kane, amazing. Hyman, amazing. The forward depth, I'm not saying it's not there. I'm saying I think the forward depth and the defensive depth, especially on the Avalanche, are just better. When you get performances like this from MacKinnon and Nichushkin, that's great. 6.3, 5.9. The Oilers are seeing those numbers, but from Kane and Hyman. I want to see those numbers from Yamamoto and McLeod. Again, but like I just said, McLeod playing way above what you would think. It's just that, is it enough? So I'm going to stop talking there. I don't want to make this a huge, long analysis. In summary, I think the Avalanche are going to take this in 7 games. I'm going to see this. I think it's going to be a long one all through and through. Offensively, there's going to be blowouts on both sides. Smith gets pulled once or twice, maybe. Kuemper gets pulled once or twice, maybe. But in the end, it's going to be a solid series that will really entertain us. And it's going to be the Connor McDavid show for sure. All these numbers here, these inflated numbers a bit from the Oilers because of a rough time from Markstrom. That's why I feel after the Avalanche, yes, Husso fell apart a little bit, but with Binnington being as solid as he was, and Husso was good in Game 6, I think the Avalanche have shown their ability to push through a solid team a bit more than the Oilers. Now, the Flames are way better than the Blues in my opinion, but were the Blues at their best? Were the Flames at their best when taking on the Oilers? That's what I'm saying. I don't mean to discount what they did. Goudreau 9.5, amazing, everything. But the Blues goaltending is what I'm trying to say was really giving them a tough time. It was only in games 4-5-ish where things started to fall apart, because at the beginning, the goals saved above expected were in the positives for games 1 and 2, and just hovering around 0 in game 3. The Avalanche only began to run away with it towards the end of the series. So if Mike Smith consistently stays in the positives here, and Darcy Kuemper is the same, where he's hovering around here, maybe a couple dips like that, that is the difference maker. So I'll stop talking finally there. I'd love to hear all of your thoughts on that here down in the YouTube comments or over on the Discord server, link in the description. Be sure to subscribe so that you get more of these breakdown videos, analysis, predictions, previews, as well as everything else on the channel. Take a second to check it out. We have NHL 22 franchise mode, NHL 07 dynasty mode. It's a really fun time here on the channel. All of it comes from your voices, so we'd love to have you join on as a part of the team. Leave a like if you are excited for this upcoming series. What do you agree or disagree on my analysis? Leave it down in the comments. I'm looking forward to discussing that with all of you. Looking forward to seeing what happens with the Rangers and the Hurricanes. That analysis will be coming out soon. The third period is just starting right now, so I'm going to go check that out. Hope you're enjoying the playoffs, and I'm looking forward to talking to you soon. So thank you for taking the time to listen, and I'll see you again in the next one.